Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Kooima of Kooima Varilek. Well, the grain trade tried to bounce initially this morning, but we're kind of mixed right now. Corn's still holding on to a few gains. The livestock, though, is in the red. And Brad, let's talk a little bit about the cattle market. And we're coming off higher weekly closes. We had new record highs and we had higher cash. So is this just some routine profit taking?
Michelle, thanks first of all for having me on. I always enjoy this. I tell you what, the cattle market is, if you're new to this thing, this is extreme volatility. I'm not new to this, and this still is. It's amazing. If you roll back the tape here to Thursday, if you remember, the news was red hot. We got a border closing to Mexico again, the announcement of the tariff with Brazil, which I really don't hook your star to that, your wagon to that star. In my opinion, I think it's very unlikely that actually will hold. But market screamed higher and then failed. Great big reversal down. Classic topping action for cattle, only to come back. It. Yeah, I know. And then come ripping right back because cash is still king. And the supply of cattle, particularly in the north, is still extremely tight, and we are extremely current. So therefore, we've got that magic word leverage, and $240 for cash cattle here, $5 higher, with discount structure like it is. It's a little easier to drag the futures back higher. So, but you're right about some of the momentum indicators we're overbought. We just got done making new highs on a lot of the back end and on the feeder cattle and stuff like that. So it is a little curious today. These, what used to be we'd break 80 cents or $1 on a correction. Now we break $4. Feeder cattle are down over $4 right now. So I do think cash is important. But I do think we've got a little bit of an issue here, maybe when you're talking about the other side of the supply market, or the demand market. I think that the boxes might be getting a little bit of attention in the marketplace this morning. It looks to me like anyway, Michelle.
Yeah, talk about that, because choice boxes were down $6 on Friday, but down sharply for the week.
Down about $18 here off of the highs, sharply lower for the week. And the irony of that, of course, is a week where the Packers paying $240 or $5 higher in the north for cattle, and while their margins erode. Now, I'm not here, to set up a GoFundMe account for the Packer. My feelings about them, but I have to talk about it from an analytical standpoint. You wonder, whether or not this kill will slow quite a bit. As they fight the margins, we'll see. I would expect that would be the next step. There is a few cattle in the south, but the north continues to be very, very current, like I said. So I think that breaking of the boxes shouldn't be a total surprise. I think for 2 weeks on your show, I've talked about, hey, after Father's Day, typically we lose money on the middles, on the steak cuts, and we switch to hamburger hot dog type of a deal. So some of it shouldn't be unexpected. But when you're at levels like this, everything is looked at under a microscope.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, cash king, is it going to be higher again this week? We had such a strong week last week. We top it.
Yeah, based on the show list I see around here, based on the currentness up here in the north, I don't know. I'd say people will ask higher again, at fully steady at least. Yeah, I mean, they're used to winning when you have this leverage factor. So we'll see. It is a non-cash day. In other words, we don't trade cash cattle until the end of the week. And it seems like that's when the futures market also will finally respond and say, well, Thursday, Friday, they can't break the cash. And here we go, like we did last Friday. So we'll see. Maybe part of this is just because of that, a non-cash day, and they're getting a little bit of a correction.
Yeah. And we should mention, again, you said we're overbought. Here's the weekly closes. We were up $16 on feeder cattle for the week. $16. I don't ever remember that kind of a week.
Great point. What? I think you make a great point.
$9 on the live cattle.
I know. You make a great point. Some of that reminds me of, remember a few years ago when corn was $8 and everybody thought it was going to be that forever. Not so much, I still, from a marketing standpoint and an old guy standpoint, I exercise caution, folks. I've said it 100 times. It's okay to stay bullish, but buy puts. So anyway, use some risk management stuff out here. And feeder cattle, of course, that's driving the bus on the feeder cattle trade too. I mean, feeder cattle are really, really high. I don't need to tell anybody that. Anybody that watched the videos last week could see that too, or been in the sale barn lately. So we got a supply side favorable situation here for a while yet. But I monitor the demand side here a little bit in case something weird happens.
Yeah, Brad, how long do you think the border will stay closed to Mexican cattle imports?
Well, I was wrong the last time you asked me this question, because I was told that it was likely going to stay closed all year. And then I think due to some pressure, by some of the southern feeders, and I understand we've had 7 consecutive months of record low placements in the state of Texas, 7 consecutive months of record low placements. So, they're starving here with empty pens to try to get some cattle in it. But I think now with the, it seems like the mood is different now. And you and I mentioned it off air before we started it a little bit. There seems to be an element of people that say that we're bound to get it no matter what we do. I hope that's wrong. Let's hope we can keep it at bay, but there is a fear out there that despite our best efforts, we might still find a way for it to sneak across the border. I often wonder in my own mind why wild animals wouldn't carry it, but I guess I don't want to be, bring up any, scare tactics here. But anyway, that seems to be a worry too. So I would say closed for a long time now. But
that is the main reason why most people tell me that it is going to get across the border, wildlife. Right. You hit it.
I mean, if a deer or a coyote, or
sorry, that's what I hear. Just quick, the Brazil 50% tariffs. We said that's actually positive because less imports coming in, but you don't think it's actually even going to happen.
Well, I don't. I mean, Brazil imports, a third of our imports come from Brazil. A third. They are a monstrous number. Their imports alone this year up over 400% year on year. It's a big deal. We get all kinds of grinding meat out of there. Okay. But I don't know, I'm not a geopolitical expert, but I don't know how, just because you don't like how they treated an ex-president, that is basis for tariffs. I can't imagine that would hold up in some sort of a legal dispute if it got to that. So I guess my guess, and this is a pure guess, my guess is it's political posturing. And by the time we get to August 1, we'll maybe hear something different. So I mean, if that's what's keeping you friendly, I'd say maybe you need a little longer list of reasons. I don't know that story has legs.
Yeah. Okay. Hogs down this morning. You've got cash and cutouts lower. You've got, I guess, negative tariff news maybe as part of this, but how much lower do you think hogs are going to correct here?
A lot of volatility there, and hogs are a market like none else, where they get going and they're not bashful about having $20, $25, $30 moves. It looks like we've got season highs into us here. We've got some uncertainty in terms of demand, at least global demand. Seems like domestic demand is okay, but a little bit of trouble there. And we certainly got plenty of hogs coming. It looks like, I don't know, there's a spot here like August hogs where they're, when you're doing some technical stuff, I like to, anybody does, you like to, okay, there's about 2 or 3 reasons why there might be something here on the chart. And that's how I feel about that $100 level on August hogs. 50% retracement of this whole leg up is right there. And there's a gap left there on the charts. And that $100 level was real important. If you remember back in March, April, and May, when we were hammering up against that, and then we gapped through it. We've never been back to it again. So I could very easily see us, slipping back to that level. And that's not that far away, $3.50.
Yeah. And I mentioned grains, at least corn trying to bounce off of new contract lows here, but it's going to be a pretty big struggle, don't you think? Just because tariff uncertainty, what now? The EU and Mexico, 30% tariffs being announced on non-USMCA compliance, and the weather's not changed, has it?
No, the weather. So I've done this 45 years, and I think I remember twice where we had a growing season where we really never had a crop put to risk or at risk. And I get it. I'm a farmer too. It's the 14th of July. It's not a guarantee. It's not in the bin yet. I know all that. However, it'd be very difficult across a lot of the I states in particular to have this crop look any better than it does. Went in when it was dry. We got a great stand. It rains every 4 days. Corn's tasseling. The weather's mild. So this time of year weather is still the most important component. Your mention of tariffs, though, I mean, Mexico's a giant customer for us for corn. Right now we're just starving for any kind of good news. Now, the reports last week were a little bit friendly, got nothing to show for it. Cheap prices will increase demand, absolutely. But I think we're going to have to find out where the bottom of the pile is here. And I worry that November beans may have to test that 970 level. I could see corn testing. I'm hoping, there's something at 394.5. I like. We could go to 380, I think, maybe on a bad day. I wished I had something better to talk about there, but it just feels like the news is tipped negatively here for now, unless something changes. And the only thing I think that could really significantly change it, well, if we get some weird weather like an early frost, of course, but I think we need some positive trade talk news, and that would help lift us off of the lows, I believe.
Yeah, there's just too much uncertainty right now. That's for sure. All right. Thanks so much, Brad Kooima with Kooima Varilek. That is Markets Now.